Welcome to the Manifest Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Norma Reyes, a Latina career and life coach. With this podcast, I help successful women learn how to combine their intuition and logic so that they can manifest their dream career. By listening to my podcast, you'll learn how to go from feeling stuck and lost on what to do next to having the clarity, motivation, and strategies to manifest the career of your dreams. Each episode, I'll teach you the skills, strategies, and mindset you need, girl, to get in alignment with your career goals. Now let's go ahead and get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 10, and today I have a very, very special guest for you guys, one of my very own sorority sisters as a guest, and her name is Christine Perez Vega. She'll be sharing with us her career journey as a nurse and about her blog called Life's Risk Management. So Christine graduated from Bloomsburg University as an RN, and she continued her education through Loyola University, where she obtained her Master's of Science in Nursing with an emphasis in healthcare systems management. Christine recently relocated with her husband and two toddler boys to Jacksonville, Florida, where she's currently working in the healthcare system as a risk management specialist. Well, thank you, Christine, for being with us. And before we get started on her episode, all about her and her career, I did want to tell you guys a little bit more about the framework that I like to use with my coaching clients, and that is planned happenstance learning theory. To give it to you guys in a nutshell, the theory talks about 5 skills that you need to transform your career, but you can apply it to your life and just to be able to navigate life and it not be as stressful. So the 5 skills that he talks about that you need are flexibility, optimism, curiosity, persistence, and risk-taking. And so when Christine shares her story, I want you guys to kind of listen for those times that she uses those different skills. And if you go back to the past episodes, you could probably hear that in their stories as well. All right, Christine, so let's go and get started. And I will start with the first question. So tell us about your family background. Who did you grow up with? And where did you live?
Well, I grew up in an area called Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, and I lived with my mom and my dad and my younger brother. So my dad is Guatemalan. He came over here when he was a teenager and kind of, built up a new life in a new country. My mom is of Mexican descent. So actually it was my great grandmother who came over from Mexico, and it was the steel industry that's really big in Pennsylvania that brought my family over. So it was the 4 of us. We're very close. I love them so much. They're like my best friends. And then also I was lucky enough in that area to have my extended family was also around, dad's side and mom's side, all very, supportive. And I really appreciate my family. I feel very blessed that I had such a great upbringing with such an amazing family.
Yeah, it makes a big, big difference. I was talking the other day about there's a difference between growing up poor and then growing up in poverty and violence. And those are 2 completely different things, and they can really change your world in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
So when you were young and people asked you about what you wanted to be when you grew up, what do you recall telling them?
So I had reviewed your questions ahead of time, and on this one, I couldn't remember. Nothing came to my mind. I asked my mom, do you remember what I said when I was younger, when I was really little? I couldn't think of that. We both kind of thought maybe a vet, but I don't really remember knowing what I wanted to do until about high school age. I had an older cousin who was a nurse at the time already. So I kind of went to her, how do you like it? She seemed to think it was, a good career. And in my mind, I also thought, well, I'll get a job. That was something that was important to me, like not going to college and everything and struggling to find a job that unfortunately so many people do have that difficulty with. So I settled on nursing around in the high school time frame more because I wanted that job security.
Yeah, well, that's good. And then you actually went out and did it, and you'll tell us about that. But before we get
Sure.
there, what are some of the earliest career role models do you remember having?
I mean, right away, I feel like my mom was absolutely a career role model. She has two master's degrees. She was working at the director level of a school district. She was doing big things. And so that's who I grew up and got to look at. So definitely, seeing her do all of that pushed me to go on. And I also got my master's and strive to get into leadership roles. And then, my dad also, though, he was definitely a role model because, like I said, he came and started a whole new life in a new country. That's scary. Like he's never afraid to just go ahead and try different things and go for it. And then the other thing, which just, in case people don't know, you're my sorority sister. So I have to take it back to Cuss. I feel like Chi Upsilon Sigma really exposed me to so many amazing professional women who do so many great things that you like don't always get to see Latina women accomplishing. So seeing that, and that I feel like during a young age, I was 19 when I pledged, I think. So I was still very young. That made a huge impact on me. And to this day, I appreciate you. I'm listening to your podcast and you're motivating me. So to this day, I feel like our sisters are really important mentors, whether they know it or not.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you had a lot of good early role models and then later too as well, like your own peers. I think that makes a really big difference. Peers that are just ahead of you just a little bit. And then something you said about your mom, you said that she was like a director and she has a master's degree, which for Latina in that generation is almost even unheard of. Like it's still not that many, like even in our generation, but in hers, it's probably even less. I can't imagine like the strife that she had to. Maybe your mom wants to be on my podcast.
Maybe she'll do it. But what's so amazing, I think, is that you're right. The statistics are low for the percentage of Latino women who have master's degrees. But in her mind, she doesn't think of those stats. She just goes and does things like, why not? Why can't I go get my master's degree? Like, it's not even a hesitant thought in her mind there. That's what was next. She was working on her ladder. She was a teacher. She wanted to continue and get more credits because that's what they do. They're constantly educating themselves. And before you know it, there she is accomplishing master's degrees. So that's what I think she's so awesome because she doesn't look at the barriers, she just goes for it.
Yeah, I liked how you said that. And that was one of the reasons why I had chose that framework when I was doing my research, because it was not looking at your limitations. I feel like there's so much research that looks at all your challenges. And I feel like I don't need to write another paper about our struggle. We know our struggle. What I need to know is how to overcome this. What can I do so that I can be successful? And it sounds like your parents kind of instilled that with you. Like the
Mhm.
barriers are there, but let's look at what we can do and keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. So they gave me that confidence at a young age to just go out into the world and get and do what you want. You can. Why not? Who says you can't?
Yeah, that makes a big difference too. So now tell us about your educational background. Did you attend college right after high school?
Yeah, so after that conversation with my cousin and I decided, okay, nursing school it is. I started to, apply while I was in high school. I ended up going to Bloomsburg University, so that was a state school for me. So I didn't go too far from home. I loved it. It was great. They had a really good nursing program and prepared you for the real nursing world. So I came out of there feeling good. And I did at that point worked in the field for about a year because in nursing, the way it's set up before you get your master's degree, you need to have some work field experience. So I worked about a year. So after the year in the field, I went on to get my master's degree. And I did that it's a master's of science in nursing. And I know it right away, you think the NP, nurse practitioner, but this one was actually specified in healthcare systems management. So that's kind of what my focus was.
Okay, and so before you started your first full-time job, while you were still in college, did your career interests change at all?
Oh yeah, I had a moment. It was my last semester, and I definitely thought, I don't know if this is what I want to do. So mind you, I'm almost done. I'm ready to graduate, and I'm sitting in I forget which nursing class it is, but I had this moment where I wasn't sure if this is what I wanted. But I feel like who doesn't have that,
Yeah,
second
I was
thought?
just
Like,
thinking that.
what
I
are we
feel like
doing right
everyone
now?
everyone kind of has that like last year crisis. Like, do I really
Mhm.
know what I want to do? And just for everyone listening, no, we don't. It can change.
I still say that. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I say that all the time throughout college. I said that, I still say it sometimes, like, because there's so many different opportunities out there that, you can go ahead and change things. And that's why I ended up sticking with it. Like, yes, I had that thought for a moment. And then I realized, well, I'm a little too far in this game to turn around. So I continued on. And I don't have any regrets on that. Nursing and the healthcare industry has such a wide variety of roles that you can go into. And so I just kind of, I think I've been finding my area and maneuvering through. So no regrets, but yes, I had that moment that, am I doing the right thing? And so luckily I stuck with it and I didn't quit in my final semester.
Yeah, yeah, it's really important. Sometimes we're about to finish something and we quit it when if we had just been a little more persistent and actually finished, right? And then decide, okay,
Yeah.
at least I have this in my back pocket if I decide to do something else, all great. But, if you're right there at the end, there's no reason not to just keep going, tough it out, another semester, year. The time's going to pass. I always say that. Like the time is going to pass even if you're taking one class every semester. 10 years will pass and you'll get that degree. It may not feel like, oh my God, 10 years from now, it's forever. But I mean, think back. I mean, I don't even know. 10 years ago, we're like 27, or maybe you're younger than me. But man, I don't know, it's a whole world of a difference. That's another story. Okay. So once you enter the workforce, tell me about those experiences.
So right away, I was doing floor nursing. And believe it or not, I actually struggled to get a job that I wanted. I wanted your typical med surg field, where I was like really learning and gaining experiences, and the hospitals would not hire a new nurse. So that was an obstacle that I wasn't expecting, but you keep going. So I ended up working for a rehab hospital, and not your drug alcohol rehab. This is physical therapy, occupational therapy kind of rehab. Loved it and really stuck with that company for a while. I was the floor nurse and then I became the nurse manager. I did have to leave for a moment because I guess they were just setting a lot of expectations for this role of mine that it became a little too much and I had to step back. I also became pregnant at that time and I didn't want those stressors on me while I'm trying to create a healthy baby. So I quit and I left for a little less than a year and I went to a new company and became their director of quality. And at this point, I have my master's degree, which I had, touched a little bit of the quality world through that. So I used that to kind of apply it to this new role. And I learned a lot. I really, really learned from the regional staff that was there at that company and beefed up my quality knowledge. So then what I was able to do is to turn around and apply for the director of quality position at that hospital, that rehab hospital that I left. Another colleague of mine mentioned that it was open. So I was able to come back. And they made some tweaks to my nurse manager role. They hired two other people to handle other tasks that they were requiring of all in that nurse manager role. So me leaving was really a blessing because they realized that they needed to kind of change that nurse manager role. And then I was able to come back at a director level at this point. So I was really excited. So definitely, it was hard leaving. I think I felt that I didn't want to quit on the team, or, you have this sense of loyalty that you want to stick with a company. But I had to do what was best for me. And then when I look back at it, I realized that was a good option. That was a good way to go because it kind of worked out for the best.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And it is scary, but it sounds amazing. And a lot of times that happens. I feel like there's really great leaders out there that take on so much and then they're not appreciated. And when they leave, they need 2 to 3 people to fill their role. So that's amazing that
Yeah,
they were. Well, it's not just amazing, but it's great that they did something about it because
sure.
sometimes that doesn't always happen. And then you came back and even got a better job after that. So now you kind of talked a little bit about your career experience then. Were you doing any networking experiences during this time?
Honestly, by this point, I had baby number one. And so outside of work, I don't think there was really much networking. What I will say is, because you network to learn and gain from others. And I was lucky enough to have worked for two different female CEOs at this hospital. So at the rehab hospital, when I first stepped into the director role, it was a female CEO, learned a lot from her. I loved being able to work for a CEO of a company that was a female. It made me, I don't know, excited to see that, and then just to like learn her ways. So I really absorbed all of her leadership skills. I was trying to really learn from her. And then she ended up leaving for another opportunity, and they had to hire a new CEO. And I was nervous, who are we going to get? And they hired another amazing woman. And it was just so good. I don't know, I feel like I was really lucky to be able to have that. So she was very different, but also a great leader. And so I was just really, when I was working with them so closely in my director of quality role, I was really trying to be a sponge and just observe how they handled each situation and just the tactics that they would use, or just the creativity that would come out. I don't know, it just amazed me. So that's kind of where I did my networking, is really sticking close to them, like, hey, how would you do this? And running things by them, or just observing how they handled each situation.
Yeah, how amazing. Definitely not common to hear two amazing female CEOs that you've worked under and got to experience directly. When you were saying that, I was thinking, I feel like it probably also gives you a better sense of connection and being able to relate with them because they're a woman as well. Because when I thought of all the CEOs that I've encountered myself, they've all been male. And it's like this imaginary wall. That's what I was just thinking. Like it has nothing to do with them themselves directly, but it's already just a wall. Like you can't envision yourself in the role. And so then that kind of probably creates some disconnect. Not saying that male CEOs are bad, but how much more connected you can feel when it's a woman. And then when they're amazing leaders, that sounds even more amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely a good experience. I'm very fortunate that I got to work alongside them so closely. And through COVID, working at a hospital through COVID, you really worked closely with each other. So it was nice that we had a good team to kind of handle this pandemic.
Thank you. Now, to kind of go a little bit with the mentoring, did you ever feel that you got any actual career counseling for yourself?
I never did anything official. Nothing's coming to mind for career counseling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's yeah, just a question.
Okay.
I think a lot of times people don't even think that's an option, outside of
Yeah.
college or just in general, maybe even just searching the internet about information. So
Hmm.
I always like to ask that question just to show that, some people may hear about it and some don't, and they're still successful in their career.
Sure.
So, what has been the most influential experience in your career thus far?
I guess a couple things. I'm a nurse, so my patients are always what influence me. They are the ones that drive me in my field. In quality specifically, we're always trying to make sure that we're improving that quality of care and patient safety, like all of those different things. So as a bedside nurse, I got to work more closely with patients and really have that, um, experience and bonding with them. But I don't lose that. I feel like I always keep that in mind, or I try to get out on the units and just still have those conversations with patients, because that's what we're all there for. That's what the healthcare industry is for. It's for our patients. So they're definitely a big influence. But then also I would add like all the nurses that I got to work with. Even starting out as a floor nurse, I got to do orientation and help brand new grad nurses start off on the floor. I got to do some mentoring when I was the nurse manager, and seeing nurses grow in such a tough field. I mean, you need to have thick skin, hard worker, really think quick on your feet. I mean, there's so much that's demanded from you as a nurse. So it's a lot. It's scary. And I really liked being able to be there for them, to be their support, and then seeing them grow and thrive and do so well and be so successful. That meant a lot to me. And so I'm always just trying to be that type of leader that I'm here for you. I'm going to support you. Always feel free to come to me. Like I've always kept the open door policy because I wanted everybody to feel comfortable to come to me as a resource because I know how hard it is. It's hard out there. So those are, I think, throughout my career, those would be my influences.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And being able to be part of someone else's growth that way it's just transformational for yourself, really.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure it was for them as well. So what do you feel have been some of your most important successes in your life?
I'll say, career wise, I was really excited that I got that director level position. I was not even 30 when I first took it. So it was, a great paying job, and it was a administrative level, senior team level out of a hospital. So I was definitely excited and proud that I got to achieve that. And it was all thanks to the support that I've had, since growing up. So I know that, my parents proud, that's always nice. And it was a good opportunity. But I know one of the next things we get to is about, I don't know if it's an obstacle, but I was so proud, right? I was so excited that I got this director level, great paying job. I was making six figures there, and I quit. I left it. And my husband and I decided that we wanted to move to Florida. It had always been a goal of ours. And even though I had reached this, the top where I thought I wanted to be, I had other goals also that I was trying to reach. So we decided to go ahead and go for it. So I did end up quitting that job. It was very difficult, really hard decision for several reasons. Will I be able to get that level of a position again? And I felt bad leaving my team. Of course, it's scary. We moved out of state, moving to a whole new state. So yeah, being said all that, what there was such a big important step, but yet I went ahead and quit, and I'm starting all over.
Yeah. So you kind of alluded to the next thing, right? What is some of the biggest frustrations you've had, important frustrations? And you shared a little bit, but I feel like there's more.
Yeah. So I guess ultimately, you work hard, you're working all your life striving for certain things. But I think you also have to look at big picture. Like, yes, I was really excited that I got this job. I got this director level job, and I made my parents happy and proud. But really, what's important is your day-to-day happiness. And for me, I felt like sunshine and warmth is the only thing that's going to make me day-to-day happy. I wanted to move down south. I hate the winter. And I almost felt like I had like seasonal depression. I would want to hibernate. Like I didn't want to do anything when it was cold out. And up in Pennsylvania, it's cold more times than it's not throughout the year. So yeah, so even though I got that role, we decided to move. And so I'm starting kind of over down here. I'm not making that much money at all. I'm not a leadership role. Like it's a member on a team, still in the category of what I was doing. So I have the knowledge and experience for it, which was great. I'm so fortunate to have found a job. But yeah, and honestly, I'm taking it as a moment of relaxation almost. It's demanding and stressful to be in that leadership role. So I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying not being anybody's boss. It's a great hospital that I work for. And yeah, me and my husband say all the time, no regrets. We have no regrets of making that leap and going for a different goal. There's lots of things that you want to go for. And just because you reached one doesn't mean you shouldn't go ahead and attempt to reach another one of yours. You don't have to settle for that. So no regrets. And I'm glad that we did it.
Yeah, I like that you share that because a lot of times we do reach some really big goals like that. Making six figures at 30, that's huge. And then to make the decision of like, wait, this is not really what I want. After all, six figures is not making me happy. So to take leap of faith and moved to Florida. And then I would think that moving to Florida from Philly or Pennsylvania, I'm saying Philly, but
It's close. Close
um,
enough.
making that move, I would imagine Florida is much slower pace. I know
Oh, it
we're at a
is.
slower pace over here, and it's just nice not to
It is.
feel in a rush all the time.
I agree. I definitely noticed that. And I knew a little bit because I have family in Savannah, Georgia. And so we would come and visit them. And I did, would notice that Southern pace, slow moving lifestyle. But now being here and doing it on a regular, yes, the anxiety level is just lower, it seems. I don't know. Or maybe, I don't know. My healthcare experiences up north are definitely different compared to down here. And just, the slow moving, I find myself walking a little slower sometimes. Like, why am I always in a rush? Calm down, walk, take your time, look at the beautiful palm trees, absorb the sun, and life is good. And I love that I do that now. I appreciate the slow moving self.
That's good.
Sometimes, unless I'm late and I really do want to get somewhere, because
You're
then,
like
hurry up.
traffic, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, so I live in, I live in Texas, but like South Texas, like right by the beach, right? Beach time people are in a whole different time too. That's another story. But yeah, the people in the valley, and I would say I'm a moderate speed driver. If you ask my husband, he'd probably say I'm slow, but I swear I'm not a slow driver. But down there, I find myself being like, oh my God, these people are driving slow. And they really are. They're going like 40 on the highway. It's unheard of in Texas.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I could not live in the cold weather. I love to visit places and experience things, but I absolutely know that I love living in hot weather. It makes a
Yeah.
big difference.
I didn't miss the snowstorms that they had all winter long.
Not throwing any shade. Just kidding. What kind of challenges are you facing now in this current role? I know you mentioned it being slow and being good, but is there any challenges that you're currently facing with the change?
Well, I think just because I had been in that leadership role for so long, like it was probably, I don't know, maybe 8 years that I was either the nurse manager or director. So I was used to being able to enable change, right? If there was a problem or an issue, I'd gather the team and we'd work together. I'd make sure to incorporate my team, but I'd make sure that positive change was occurring. And in this role, I'm gathering the data, but I'm not an enforcer, or I'm nobody's boss to say, hey, what changes are going to happen? Like, I just gather the data on the problems, present, and that's it. My job's done. But for me, that's a little unfulfilling because I want to see that positive change. That's what like, keeps me thriving. So that's a little tough. I'm getting used to it. I think I am. But in the beginning, I was kind of like, what do you mean? And then we just pass it on, and that's the end of it. And I move on to the next issue and just gather data and pass that on. But I'm getting used to it. And you have to appreciate what you're doing, that it is making a difference. And I'm still part of the team. I'm just one piece of a big puzzle. And it's a much larger hospital than what I've ever worked for. So that's another piece of it too, is the fact that it's such a large health system. So that's how they work there. You can't kind of follow everything through. You have to be a piece of the puzzle. So I'm learning to appreciate that I'm a piece of the puzzle and letting things go. And so I think that's probably my only challenge. But I'm, again, good team and really thankful that I was able to find a job down here.
Yeah. Are there any unexpected events or happenings that have occurred in your life, in your career so far, that you've transformed into a success?
Well, okay, so this will take it back a little bit. When I was younger, I started working at 13, and you couldn't even legally work.
I was going to ask, is that legal?
No, my mom had to come with me on my interview. It was all under the table that I got paid because it was not legal, but I wanted to work. I don't know. I would walk. It was not too far from my house, and I would just walk to work. And I was at that job from 13 to, I want to say 13 to 17 or 18 years old. And this place, it was a little golf place, a mini golf place. They sold ice cream, you can hit a bucket of balls, had several owner changes throughout that time frame. And I stuck with the place. It was kind of like a joke, like you come with the building, huh? And so it was a very unique opportunity that when I look back on, I think that probably really did affect me more than I realized then. It just taught me a lot, taught me flexibility, which is one of the things that you mentioned, because you were working for completely different people, new ownership. They had a different concept of how things should be run, new name. There was so many different things. So I was constantly having to be flexible with that. And just the responsibility would vary depending on the owner. I had one who, because I had been there for so long and kind of came with the place, I think they expected a lot out of me. And at this point, I'm, 17 years old, so I shouldn't run your business. But hey, I was stepping up to the challenge. So I just think that was really an interesting experience that I had that I don't always think of. But when I do look back at it, I'm like, wow, that really prepped me. And, this being that hard worker, that the organizational skills, just everything that I got to do, because they were allowing me to probably do more than a 16-year-old should. But it was fun.
Yeah, that sounds super transformational. And why you probably, was making six figures at 30, which is not,
Yeah.
typical. I mean, you already had years of experience navigating a workplace without having really thought about it that way. To you,
Right.
it's probably a lot of fun. But
It was. It was
and in
blast.
that, you were learning a lot of different things that you didn't realize that you need to learn to be successful in the workplace. And of course, being flexible is one of
Yeah.
them. It's a really, really big.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
well, that's amazing. Now, how about any missed opportunities? And what I mean by missed opportunities are maybe roles that you applied to that you really wanted and you didn't get. And now looking back, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I didn't get that position after all.
Well, I know I mentioned it already, but I had applied like crazy when I first came out of nursing school to hospitals that were in the area that I already lived. So where I ended up getting the job is about an hour away from my parents' house. So that was definitely, I was bummed. I wanted to get into that hospital from my community. I wanted to be part of my community and work my community as a nurse, and I couldn't. So I was kind of forced into the location to Reading, Pennsylvania, and never thought I would have been there. So, but again, no regrets. I love it. My brother joined me. My cousin, who's my other half, joined me. Maybe they regret it because now I'm gone. But, it definitely kind of just, that's the way it had to happen. I couldn't get that role. So is it a missed opportunity? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what my life would have looked like if I did get those jobs. But in the end, I don't regret not getting that. It's not really something that phases me or haunts me at night. I just kind of kept going, kept moving forward. Don't look at the barriers, like we said earlier. And, you keep seeing what else is out there, what other opportunities, because you can always make something out of that. And so that's what I did. And I was able to really, that company that I joined really helped me grow and let me go from a bedside nurse to a director level. So, that worked out pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of quick career ladder going up there that you
Mm-hmm.
may have not experienced in a much larger,
True.
hospital network. Now, I know that you are currently working as a nurse, but what else is a side project that you're doing?
So I recently started a blog, a website. It's lifesriskmanagement.com. And the idea came to me because in my field, I'm constantly using, proven strategies that we apply to make that positive change, to have that quality care, quality of life impact. And as I was going through, I'm like, why don't we apply these to our own lives? That's really important too, and it's not just used in the healthcare industry. A lot of the strategies that I review, they're just industry wide strategies for, really successful companies. If you want to have a successful company, you can apply these to make sure you have consistent quality. Well, I want consistent quality in my life, who doesn't? So I'm just kind of tweaking them a bit and trying to teach people about these tools and strategies that we can use to apply to our lives. And then when you have these tools in your pocket, you feel more confident. You're competent and you know how to handle whatever life's going to throw your way, because it's hard. Adulting is hard. Life is hard. You can quickly find yourself just in bed, feeling stressed, and anxiety is out of control. So we have to kind of ground ourselves and like figure out, well, how am I going to work through this? And what can I do to work through this? So that's the goal of it, is just to help people feel good about tackling all the different obstacles that come our way. So yeah, so it's really new. I just started it last month, and I will probably continue to get more specific. Right now, I'm kind of just teaching those tools, and then I'll, pick different topics to show how we can apply them.
Nice. I love that. And I love the name, risk management,
Well,
of our life.
that's my job. I'm currently a risk management specialist for a hospital. And so that's why I'm like, well, we should all be our own risk management specialists of our lives. So that's kind of where I play it off of the words like that.
Yeah.
But because someone asked, are you a life coach? And that's not necessarily the goal. That's not really what I thought of. I guess it comes across that way, but I want everybody to be their own life coach. Like, here are the tools that you can use to coach yourself up to handle things. That's all. That's where it started. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, we all need a little bit of risk management in our lives, maybe a lot of it sometimes. I'm sure the 5 skills that I talked about are probably things you need to apply.
Absolutely.
You have to like let me know if you find some that like relate specifically to those 5. And I will email you the 5 because I don't know if you remember them specifically anymore. But
yeah, my memory is terrible, so I definitely don't remember them all. But I remember thinking, as you were saying each of them, I was nodding my head like, absolutely, yes, and yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a few more, but those are the one from the theory. So I'll say them again. It's curiosity, flexibility, optimism, persistence, and risk taking.
I love it.
And you got to do some risk. I mean, people feel like taking risk is really scary, but we take risk every day. Some of them are just not scary. Now, is there anything else you would like to share with us?
And I don't know. I really appreciate you having me on this. Like I said, I'm a big fan already. So when you asked me to come on, I got really excited. I've never done a podcast, so I was very excited to be here. And I hope, it's helpful for people. And if my blog could be of any help, I'd love to hear feedback and comments on if anybody gets a chance to check that out, because it's new and growing. And so I'm just looking for feedback on it. But thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. And on the show notes, we'll link everything. But can you say out your handle on Instagram? And are you on anywhere else besides your website and Instagram?
Yeah, I'm on. So Instagram, it's at life's_risk_management. And then on Facebook, it's at Life's Risk Management. And I'm also on Pinterest at Life's Risk Management. And then Twitter, it didn't allow that full name. So it's at Life's Risk Manage.
I know. I think when I was doing one of them, I just didn't even do a Twitter for my Manifest Your Career for the podcast because it didn't allow it. And I was like, I don't know how I would shorten this, so I'm not going to. So
yeah.
Maybe later I will, but not yet. Well, thank you so much for being with us. I loved everything you shared. And even if someone's not necessarily looking to go into the nursing field, just hearing how you navigated your career is definitely impactful. I know hearing everyone else's stories motivates me and also helps me kind of normalize some of my struggles as well. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Manifest Your Career podcast with me, your host, Dr. Norma Reyes, a Latina career and life coach. Are you ready to take action today? Visit my site, manifestyourcareer.com, and get your free Confidence Through Clarity guide.